Hi, and welcome to Josh's Car Corner Hibernation Edition. It is mid-November and the temperatures have dropped. The car season for the GTO is over. I actually have had this thing parked since October 20th. The last thing I did with it right at the end of October is me and a friend, we went down to Byron once again to try and set new personal bests in our cars, and it was not very good weather. There was a lot of problems. There are a lot of cars there, and I only ended up getting to make one pass, but it was a worthwhile pass because I ended up running a new personal best. I ran 12:20 at 112 miles an hour with a 1.76 60 foot. Now that's a lot faster than the 60 foots I had last year, and you might be asking how I did that. Well, the answer is right over here. This is a Corvette 5th gen Z06 replica wheel made by what company called Wheel Replicas out of Texas, and this is a 17 by 9.5 wheel that uses the Corvette bolt pattern, but it's close enough to the GTO that you can bolt it right on without too much difficulty. And then attached to that is a Hoosier DOT drag radial. This is their 26 by 10.5 by 17 inch drag radial, or in the metric world that's 275/40/17. And I put these on here, and the whole setup ended up costing me about $800, but it is well worth it because I can now launch harder, I can hook better, I can get out of the hole a lot faster. My 0 to 60 time is now sub 4 seconds. I know there's more in this car. On a nice warm track with these tires nice and hot, I think I could run a low 1.7 60 foot and put this thing into the 12 singles, maybe even the 12 O's, which would be very impressive with a bolt-on GTO. The fastest bolt-on GTO record I've ever seen for a manual transmission is 12:07, so I'm right there. So hopefully next April, with some good weather and some good air, can get closer to that goal. So for the winter, the car's gonna, for the most part, sit. I haven't really decided if I'm gonna do anything over the winter. The one thing I'm gonna do for sure is it's not gonna sit here for the whole winter. This upcoming weekend, I'm hoping to turn it around. I'm going to take the exhaust out of it, and then I'm going to turn it back around and park it in a orientation that I can work on it over the winter. The headers are going to come out. I'm going to have them ceramic coated, which I've always wanted to have done just to keep the engine bay temperatures down a little bit. I might, while I'm in there, pull the engine out. I don't know if I'm going to do anything to it other than just really clean it up and make sure there are no leaks or no areas of concern or issue. I'm probably going to put on a breather setup to help keep oil out of the intake, because LS motors are notorious for, through the crankcase ventilation system, sucking engine oil up into the intake, and then your intake gets coated in oil, which is, even though it's plastic and it doesn't really hurt it, it's not a good situation. So there are guys now that make oil breather catch cans that you put in line with your crankcase ventilation system, and they absorb the oil through a mesh and keep it from getting into the intake, and then you just clean them out periodically. So I'll probably do that. I may or may not have some transmission work done. The transmission, I was not satisfied with how it was shifting. It was notchy, it clunks when it's cold, and it still clunks a little bit when it's warm. I was thinking about sending it out to have it rebuilt this winter, but it started shifting a little better right at the end of the year, which doesn't make sense because it's been getting colder and it should be shifting worse, but it's actually shifting a little better. So I haven't decided whether I'm going to do anything with the transmission yet. I might. You may recall that I did an episode where I had a project car. It was a Pontiac Bonneville that I bought for $300, and I couldn't decide what to do with it. Well, I still have it. I ended up keeping it, and I'm going to use it as a winter car. And the reason I'm going to do that is once I started getting into it a little more, I found some more problems that I at first didn't know about. I had the left rear wheel off one day, and I was cleaning up the mating surface between the wheel and the brake drum. And when I was back there, I noticed that the sway bar link for the left rear was broke clean in half. So I went to a parts store and for $6 got a brand new sway bar link and put it together. And all of a sudden, the pitching and the leaning that the car was doing was very much reduced, and it handled a lot more like a car should. So that was the whole problem with the pitching and leaning. And it actually, I mean, it's still a big floaty boat, but it drives pretty good now, and for $300, it's got a strong heater, it runs good. Aside from a couple of electrical gremlins, it's really in decent shape. So I'm just gonna keep it as a winter car. And what I might end up still doing is I might end up taking it apart sometime late in the winter and getting it ready to do a race. Like I had said that I might race it. I find out that there's another cheap car endurance race series out there. There's the 24 Hours of Lemons, which I thought I would do. There's another one called the Chump Car World Series instead of Champ Car. It's pretty much the same thing. They're going to hold a race at Road America in April. If I can get a crew together, some guys who are willing to invest in the safety gear, that are competent drivers and are willing to put in a little time on the car to get it ready to do that kind of racing. It would need a roll cage, some safety gear, and some parts repaired before I could do it. But if I could get that team together, I would do that because sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. So that's pretty much it for this winter. The only other thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm going to show for the next few episodes on Josh's Car Corner some footage from a road trip that I went on. See, back in May, I went on a road trip in this old girl, and we went across the country, all the way to California and back. I actually started by going to the V8 supercar races in Austin. I wanted to go to the inaugural event. Then I went across Texas into New Mexico, into a town called Ruidoso where I saw some family. Dropped down into Alamogordo where my sister's stationed at an Air Force base. Then I went to Las Cruces, and then from there I cut across New Mexico and into Arizona where I stopped in Tombstone just to see what that was about. I'm a big fan of the movie and the history. And then it was across Arizona on Interstate 8 to Yuma. And then it was Southern California, stopped in a little border town called Calexico. Top Gear fans will know what I'm talking about there. And went up through Southern California to Palm Springs, over to LA, up to Willow Springs Raceway, to a national park. I went up to San Francisco, to another national park, came back down to LA, was in the audience for a TV show, and then went to San Bernardino, picked up Route 66 and took Route 66 all the way back home. 20 days and 7,200 miles, and this was just the most faithful companion you could ever have. I actually fell more in love with this car than I had already been, and after doing a 20-day road trip in it, I've decided it's just the perfect car. I mean, it drag races well, it handles a road course very well, and it's a great grand tourer, as I came to find out. So I'm going to be putting out episodes that will feature footage I shot during my trip of that on a pretty regular basis. I hope to have it all up by the end of the year. So that's what you're going to see. And it was a great experience, and I hope you watch it. And just to see what it's like to be on your own in a car for 20 days driving across the country. It was a life-changing experience, and I had a great time, and I've decided I'm going to try to do a road trip every year now after doing that. So I hope you watch it. I hope you enjoy it, and look for those episodes to come soon. So we'll see you guys later.